The yellow line should mean it should be working. So, we'll start here in just a second. Thanks for your patience. Sipping my coffee. We're drinking water, not coffee. See, I don't know. This live stream business has just been...
There we go.
There we go. We look fantastic.
Absolutely.
So,
as always.
So, yeah, we were just doing video we tried to do like last week, but we weren't physically in the same location, and because of my poor computer equipment, we were unable to pull off a live stream. So we just wanted to do a stream, talk about who we are and why we're running for the office. I'm running for the special election GOP nomination in District 12, and Tom's my campaign manager. So, Tom, you want to tell them a little about yourself, like what you do?
Sure. So I went to Clarion with you, Clarion University of Pennsylvania. We were on the debate team together, obviously. Did we win the first tournament for Clarion?
I think so, at least in modern times.
Yeah, in 2000, I guess modern times, in 2003.
Barry and them were good like in the 60s and 70s, I think, but yeah.
So I knew you from there. Yeah. You were my roommate for a while. You went to the NDT, not with me, although I went along, but I don't get to claim the credit for having...
You cropped out of the photo.
Yeah, cropped out of the official Clarion photo for that. So I've known you for a good number of years. Since Clarion, I've been living in State College, which is within the 12th District. I technically live in Ferguson Township, which is still within the 12th District, although it's right on the line. And I've worked in Ferguson Township for the last 12 years. I am a software engineer. The last few years, or the last good number of years, I've been a team lead for software, so I'm used to like leading people, working with people, and I especially like working with people that are right out of college and helping them learn new skills and get ready and being good software engineers. So I'm used to like running specific software projects on a cheap budget and have people like new and get them to be good right away or to be useful right away, right. Which is not something that's always happening in the software field.
Right. Yeah. So I think that I can speak for you a little, and I think we both had the same idea as to why to do something like this. And we both have good skill sets for what we're doing specifically. So I think I am really good at talking. I'm really good, as people that watch this channel probably know. And I'm good at understanding like all these blue collar people around me, kind of talking politics with them. And that's why I'm running, because I feel like they don't have a voice. I feel like you're the same way, except you're coming at it from the end of you're doing all the behind the scenes, the technical stuff and stuff like that.
So I like to really be prepared for things a lot. So that's always been what I've done with work, is try to do as much prep and try to know and be over prepared, so that way you're prepared for every situation. And I have pretty good knowledge of policy positions and stuff myself, although they're not always the same as you.
Right.
I am definitely not as good at talking to people as you are, and you are definitely good at more giving your point to people than I am. So yeah, I think we work well together, and you and I will discuss the positions and stuff sometimes. But
well, I think that's right. That's one of the things I'm trying to get across to people that I think is so important, that makes me stand out from the other candidates, is there's a lot of people that are like working with us, just in little things like coming up with logos for our campaign, coming up with music and stuff like that for our campaign, and just in other ways helping us out, just doing little things. We all vastly differ on a lot of ideas of what we want politically, but where we all come together is we understand most people are decent people and they all want the same things. Most people, you don't want poor people. You want the economy to be doing well and things like that. And we just feel like there's different solutions to get there. But I think what makes us stand apart is we realize that what we need first is someone who's actually listening to regular people.
Yes.
And I think both me and you, because of how we grew up and where we went to school and where we've lived our whole lives, like in this rural Pennsylvania area, we understand that you don't have to be in academia, or you don't have to be a career politician or have a lot of money to have a valued opinion, to teach us something. And I think that's where we really stand out, where we're willing to listen to everyone. We want to give them all a voice.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And like I said, living here, so I follow a lot of people on like Twitter or things like that, right? And you can tell like people that are on the coasts have like their own like bubble, I guess you want to say, where they're all talking about things that are not the things that people in the middle of the country need. And it's just weird because it seems like they don't ever. It's like they don't know anybody that lives somewhere else. And here, living in State College is actually kind of unique because it's a college town, obviously, so it's pretty liberal, the town, but completely surrounded by a rural area. It's, I believe, did you say it's the most rural district?
I think so, yes.
Or in the state, so Penn State State College is the largest town within the district, but it's not that big of an area compared to the rest of the district. So there's people definitely with both sides of the opinions, and I have to deal with people that talk, but you need to be able to talk to each other. Right,
and I think that, like, particular State College area, Center County, I think that we could do really well for the Republicans here, because I think one of the things, first off, let me say, all the other candidates that I've met, and I know you haven't had a chance, because if you're watching and you don't know how the exactly how the system's working, we had a teleconference that we participated. That was my first time to hear from a lot of the candidates. So basically you called in, you only had a minute and a half to kind of give a little about yourself, and then you got to ask a couple questions. You got to spend a minute apiece. But that was my first chance to hear a lot of these other candidates. And then last night I went to Potter County with my wife, and we did kind of a Q&A with a lot of the candidates. And I have to say, a lot of them sound really good. I do believe that. I think there are some things that separate me, which I'll be doing some other videos on and we could talk a little about. But one of the big things is the thing I think me and you were talking about is that there's this gut feeling, if you live in, like, rural Pennsylvania, for example, if you live in District 12, there's this feeling of, like, yeah, everything's based on the coastal elites and things like that. That, to me, that doesn't mean that the elite shouldn't have, those people on the coast shouldn't have a voice.
Oh, absolutely.
But it becomes like, it's almost unanimous. So the entertainment industry, academia, the mainstream media, the Silicon Valley, it's all kind of geared towards that one group. And so oftentimes, like, it's joked, oh, we're in flyover country and things like that. And so we deserve a voice as well. But what we understand is, because we came from this area and then we went into academia and did all this stuff with debate, you realize, like, we have something to tell them, and it's important that but we could hear them out as well. And so it is important that we have a voice, but with a place like Center County, specifically around State College here, I think we could do better because we understand the concept of civility, understanding that we might disagree with what a lot of people think of how to get where we want to get, but we agree on the problems, and we need to treat each other with respect, and I think that'll bring in more people to our side.
Yeah, I think so, because there's a lot of people, especially just in the neighborhoods around me, that they're all about treating people with respect.
Right.
And that's a reason, to be frank, as to why they've kind of been skewing the other way.
Right.
The respect that they've been seeing is that they've been caring about is not the respect that you and I are noticing.
Right.
So they've been seeing disrespect from some of the other side.
Well, think of it this way, right? If we see, you turn on the media and we see, as someone from rural Pennsylvania, I see, like, oh, we're being disrespected as people that are rural. But if you live in a very rural district and you happen to have different opinion, you too then feel that same way. You feel like, oh, well, everyone around me. And so I think both parties, everyone needs to have more civility and understand. But I think this, as someone who's Republican and run, I think that I'm in a unique position to show that this is what separates me from the other candidates. I know how to deal with people that disagree. This is a great time to say, my principles are constitutional principles, individuality, respect everyone. And I think, you might disagree. Some people might disagree with me on that, but that, at least I think I come off as genuine. And I think, like you said, there's a lot of people that would say, hey, we like fiscal conservatism, or we like a lot of what the Republican Party says. But there's this kind of, standoffishness where it's like, well, I don't want to be engaged in, like, being insulted and things like that.
Right.
I didn't like it when Hillary said I was deplorable, so I don't want Republican candidates going out there being like, oh, the heck with Cortez supporters, the heck with Bernie supporters. To me, it's, the same thing.
Right, yeah, I agree. And I certainly see that too. Yeah.
Well, and I think that that's something that people like me and you talk about a lot, because you're, like, I'm definitely the most conservative out of our group of friends that were in the debate community, but you're probably close to second, because then a lot of our other friends are, like, full-blown socialists.
Yeah, and that's not me for sure.
Which we disagree with. But, we're friends with them. We understand where they're coming from. It's not like they're crazy people. Well, they're crazy, but in a good way. They're not terrible people. And we've been saying this for years. I've been saying it on this channel. And so I think, we hear a lot of the candidates talking about, and a lot of the conferees correctly asking, like, how do we grow the Republican Party? How do we ensure that we win this district from, like, particularly the only county that the Republicans lost with Tom Marino in 2018 was Center County, I believe.
Yeah.
And so how do you get inroads there? Well, the way you get inroads is you talk to people like human beings. You say, we're not going to come at you and say, yeah, we're just right and you're wrong. You say, well, let's hear your opinion. And I think that's why our campaign is doing so well, because we're able to reach out to people like that. I think more than any of the other candidates, we've been talking about the need to have that civility. So I think that's one of the things that sets us apart.
Yeah, that's definitely the part that I like the most about the campaign, is that we're all about the position. We're about the positions, and we're about being respectful to one another.
That's right.
You have a very good breadth of knowledge on all the positions, and you're able to articulate it in a way that, to me, is very impressive for somebody who hasn't been running for office before. And that comes from debate, because we had to study all of these things back in the day. I probably like you, I'm guessing we both had a passion for that afterwards, and we both kept up on this stuff, even when we didn't really have much of a justification. We're probably still reading stuff at midnight, for policy things. And it's like, I got to go to work in the morning, but I'm going to keep reading this article on for no justification, just so I could have a little bit more knowledge of this and argue it with somebody the next day at work.
That's right. That's exactly. And the other thing is, I hope it comes off from our videos, and anyone who was at any of the meetings. Tomorrow we'll be at a conferee meeting, though I don't think you're allowed in the room.
Right.
Candidates only. But we are regular people, and I think that's important to what talking people. You have to understand, the majority of people don't even vote. They're outside of the process, and it's almost like there's this legalese in politics where it's just like the average person. It's like, unless you have hours to invest in it, it's so convoluted. It's not that the people don't have the knowledge to understand it. It's just it's spoken in a different language. So you have to have contacts, or you have to be in connection to some kind of official thing, or you have to, be wealthy in some way, or have free time to be able to do all this. And I think what we're trying to do is to show regular people, you don't have to be stuffy. You can have things. If I get elected, this is the types of conversation I'll be having with the fellow congresspeople, because it's been a motto of mine for life that I feel like you're not better than anyone, and no one's better than you. To me, the welder or the farmer in this district has just as much, in fact, I would argue more, but I'm biased, the backbone of the country than the congressman. So when I'm there talking to them, I'm just trying to have the exact same type of style and tone as I do when I'm talking to the constituents. And I think that that's something that we need. One thing you could like or dislike Trump, one thing you could say is, I think he is who he is in front of everyone. And I think that's what people want. It's one thing to stand up and give an impressive speech, and have a lot of these bullet point materials like, I'm Second Amendment, I'm pro-life. But, can you really articulate that to the regular person? Can you listen to input from the regular person? Can they come up to you and feel like, hey, you're just one of us? And I think that's where I stand out. Both of us. We're regular people. This is what we do. We talk about it. And we felt like the regular people didn't have a voice, so that's why we got involved.
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
And so I think we want to talk just a little. If I'm totally honest, and I know you agree with me because we've talked about this, we knew getting in we'd do good when we're in front of people.
Yeah. You would do. We knew you would do good when you got in front of people. But you're the one that goes in front of people.
I'm so handsome. That's what. But so
the rugged good looks are
that's the key. That's key. But so we knew we'd do good. I think we both thought where we might have trouble was with the campaigning aspect, and things like that, because not that we didn't feel we were capable, but because it's two of us two and my wife basically, and we assumed everyone would have these. And we all work
full-time jobs too.
That's right.
So keep that in mind.
That's right. And so we're not anything we come up that's here's and I'm sure you'll admit this, everything you've helped me with, you have not my policy positions are my policy positions.
That's correct.
You'll help me word something better.
I will help you word stuff a little bit better.
But or spell check and things like that. But and formatting and all that. But my positions are my positions. Us setting up the PowerPoints, the videos and everything, the plan for the election, the timeline for exactly who to visit, we did all that. That's just us.
Right.
Us three, we're the only people that had a contribution on that.
And we had to do all of that research on our own. So we went out and found all the top industries within each of the counties. We found, I believe, the top 10 industries for each county, which we have a list of all of that. And our plan that we have, campaign plan that we have that's in the PowerPoint, if you happen to be one of the people that have received the PowerPoint, goes through and says, here's what we plan on focusing on each county. And that's because we've specifically gone and investigated what are the big employers, what are the big industries in each of the counties, and so we've planned as if we will win.
That's right.
Next week.
Well, that's one thing about both me and
win the nomination.
I think that we know we're fighting an uphill battle to begin with, because there's a tendency to want to go with more of a traditional type politician. I don't think that being a traditional politician means necessarily you're bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I feel that we've done that over and over again so many times, and it seems like voices like the regular people aren't heard. Doesn't mean every politician's bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think we see with Trump that there was a politician, and again, like him or hate him, I happen to really like Trump, but I do think that we see he was someone who wasn't a traditional politician, and it seems like he attempted to at least speak for the American worker more than a lot of these traditional politicians. Now, maybe you say, yeah, but I don't like the plans he came up with. Fair enough, but I feel like he genuinely cares about the auto industry, the manufacturing industry, the energy industry, and things like that. So I think that you don't have to be a traditional politician to do that. But we know we are fighting an uphill battle. I have to say, though, I am thoroughly impressed with where we stand in comparison to other campaigns as far as the amount of material we put out. We understand that you need kind of a transmedia format to reach new people. So it's not just enough to be like, well, here's a postcard. We are sending out postcards. We do have business cards that we made. But we're also doing PowerPoints, which I haven't seen from anyone else. We're doing videos. We're doing regular emails. And we're updating that stuff every week to send out. So
and we have our Facebook page, too.
That's right.
And if you're somebody, by the way, that hasn't liked the Facebook page and happens to be watching the video, you should like the page. It is facebook.com/Robert Noerr for Congress.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that that's where you really came in helping me, where for me it was just all about, just talk. Put a video out, just talk and leave people. And that stuff is important. But I think you're absolutely right that you need to have plans written down, a plan of action. And that's where you come from, like the research into each county. Like, I think that's all been amazing. And I think that the reaching out to people, I hope that people appreciate that are getting stuff. This is 3 people doing this. And we have full-time jobs. If we win, I think that the amount of talent that we have that we're showing we're brand new at this. And I honestly think that, even if the process is over, if you happen to be a conferee or if you talk to someone that was a conferee that received this material we're sending out, I think everyone would be impressed. We don't get to see everyone else's material, but I know we're right there. I know we've had as many interviews with media outlets. We've had a lot of newspaper articles written about us and things like that. I've done a lot of interviews. And, everyone I hear that we're talking to is like, we're really impressed with the type and the amount of material you're sending out. So, and I think, again, like I said, stylistically, it's important to have those differences. Because a lot of people, we're talking about, we happen to be younger. And we're talking about how to reach younger people to get them more interested in the system in the first place, but to get them more interested in possibly joining the Republican Party. And it's really tough with old media formats, I think. Like, if you're just, you think of old style campaigns. Oh, mailers. We're going to send out mailers. We're going to put up yard signs. We'll do a couple television ads. Most people our age don't even have cable.
Right.
And it's things like that. So we understand there's different ways to reach them.
But most people our age are watching YouTube all the time.
That's right. Which is why we're starting with this format. We have also other ideas. Like, talk about the idea you had where we're trying to get the college Republicans in the area to be involved if we win the nomination.
Oh, yeah. So, like I said at the beginning, I'm used to working with people right out of college. And so my theory is, whether or not it's correct, and like I said, I like working with... for some reason, I enjoy working with a small budget, and I guess I feel like I'm an underdog,
right?
When I'm doing that kind of stuff. So I like working with a small budget, and to use a software term, I like the agile environment. So I like getting new people that are fresh into the process, and people that don't actually 100% know what they're doing, but they're willing to learn. And they might have, because it's a new thing to them, they might have completely different ideas than no one else has ever had before. So I would like to specifically go out and recruit the college Republicans from each of the schools that we've identified. I don't remember which all of them were off the top of my head. I believe Penn State's one, Lock Haven, Susquehanna University, and I feel like there's another one.
There is.
Maybe Mansfield. And... yeah, I would like to get them active, and I would like to have them be high up in the campaign.
That's right.
I want them to get experience. I want them to, if they're working with us, to be high up and be able to put something on a resume that next time that they're working with the campaign, they could be in like a really good place, higher up than they would ever be if they did it the normal route where they went through college, they did political science major or whatever they would do, and then they have to work on some campaign as like some volunteer for 3 years before they end up doing stuff. We want them like high up in the campaign, helping make decisions with us and helping us reach their target audience and other audiences as well. And I think that's a way to run it. I think we need people from our generation and younger to step up.
Right.
I think that's what we need. I think that's what the Republican Party needs. Right now, the party, it has skewed a little bit that the ages, right? You're getting people that are older, which is great, but the young people are very much skewing the other direction, which the long-term viability of the party doesn't work that way unless you start recruiting people from our generation. That's
right. So, so a couple things I'll say about that too. I think that we're both, I don't want to say unique, but we both understand being young. I think both of us, and whether it came from debate or what, when we were in debate, you had to understand, sometimes the people we were debating, they might have had perfect SAT scores, or everyone talks, like, people say I talk fast. Like, sometimes...
We're still talking fast.
I know we are talking fast. I need to work on slowing down. In debate, for those of you who don't know, you speak like an auctioneer, and it's really, if you never heard it, you would think it was gibberish. People could talk like 300-400 words a minute. I mean, it's really fast. Neither of us were very good at speaking
We weren't
fast,
that fast.
Or keeping up with them. We weren't the best at that.
But since we've been doing this, at least I've noted that both of our speeds have been increased. Probably because we're working full-time jobs and we're trying to get a lot of communication between us back and forth in a short period of time so we can go back to doing other work.
That's exactly it. But we understood. One of the things I thought we were always very good at, it's our squad as a whole, Clarion as a whole, but particularly me and you, was we were able to identify what our weaknesses were.
Right.
So, like, a lot of times, like, even in athletics, you'll go in and people are just like, yeah, we'll win it all. But you have to be honest with yourself, too. You have to say, of course, everything we do, we're in this campaign to win it. We are. Everything you do, you try to win. You obviously. But you have to be honest about what your strengths and weaknesses are. And so one of the things I think we understand is we have weaknesses. So, for example, some of the candidates I'm running against, like, are in the Farm Bureau. Now, am I going to pretend I know more about farming than that person? No. But what I can do is understand I have a good breadth of knowledge. I have a lot of depth of knowledge in certain issues, such as corruption and things like that. But when it comes to farming or energy, I understand that I need to bring people in that can tell me about that. I then can take that information and I'm able to relate it to both people at a high level in the congressional sense and also people that are just not maybe as investigated into it, so I can explain it to normal people. That's just a talent I have. So when we're talking about young people, it is important. The reason I bring this up is if you're older and you're thinking like, well, what about us? Well, the reason we're saying to influence, there should be two reasons that you're concerned about the young. One is, if you want the country to continue the way you've always loved it, then we need to get young people in the Republican Party. Because if you seed them to this idea of the socialisms that's coming up, it's going to look radically different once this new generation gets into more of the traditional voting stage.
And the way to get those younger people back is not to go at them and say, like, socialism is evil, you're an idiot for considering even voting for Cortez or Bernie Sanders, right? You have to engage on the specific issues and be like, listen, here's why I think one of the things that Cortez says are incorrect, or why my ideas are better. You can't just attack, and because they're just going to not believe you.
That's right. And as disenfranchised as we as rural Pennsylvanians feel, young people feel disenfranchised as well. And when you have someone telling them, like, hey, we're going to eliminate all of your tuition, we're going to give you free health care, it sounds appealing. You can't fault people for saying that. It's easy to be sold a bill of goods. And I'm not even saying, like, I'll even go a step further and say, I don't think everyone's saying that's a nefarious person. I think they feel they're doing right. And the problem we have so much is we just automatically, look at someone like Cortez. You automatically look at her and be like, oh, she's evil. I don't think so. I think she's wrong. I think she's ignorant of a lot of the issues. But I do think that she probably was someone that was like, I feel like I'm not being heard, so I'm going to run, and she ran.
And you have to admit that she's very good at attracting young people to the Democratic Party. And we need somebody like that on the right.
Right. So if you start saying, oh, she's just an idiot, or, all these other insults you hear, what do you think the people that voted for her say, the young people that appreciate her, how do you think that feels? They probably feel like Republicans felt when Hillary said they were deplorable. That's not a way to win those people over. You have to be empathetic for those people and say, we understand, we all have unique reasons that we vote the way we do. We all have unique situations in our life, and everyone's going to vote for what they think would help their personal situation out or help the country out as a whole. I've often voted for things that wouldn't. As a poor person, I could have voted for more free money, and I haven't. But you see what I'm saying. People have good reasons to vote. And so what we need to do is reach out to those younger generations. And I do think the other thing I'll say, if you're not part of this younger generation, we're still speaking to you, because my idea is I feel we're in the position we're in because there were so many great generations above us. We haven't had a great World War. We haven't had our Vietnam. And yeah, there have been brilliant people that have served that are our age too. Like,
yeah, we've had lots of people in the wars in Iraq.
Right,
and,
Iraq
and in Afghanistan,
right,
for sure.
That's true.
So we don't want to,
I absolutely get. But as a generational thing, we didn't have a situation where it was like the world may end. Literally,
right, correct.
Like
we haven't.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I would not besmirch any soldier that was involved in if you've gone to any conflict, even if you've just signed up, you're a hero and you deserve immense praise. It's something that I didn't do, and no matter what, this is a little service that we're doing, trying to run. It is service, but it's nowhere near any person that signed up for the armed services. So I do respect that. But what we have, even with something like the civil rights movement, that was a huge deal. That was something that was like a turning point for our country. Now we see with younger generations that they're looking for, I always say it's like they're looking for their dragon to slay.
Yeah.
What is the great, fight the great evil that they're fighting? And we just make stuff up.
Right.
And now we have this victimhood culture. So what I'm really saying, we need to get young people on board is we also need to do that, because I want to be a bridge from the values that I saw in older generations of hard work, personal liberty, taking responsibility for yourself, and translate that to the younger generation, which I think they desperately want to hear that message. No one's talking about that.
Yeah. As somebody who works with a lot of people right out of school, I oftentimes hear about millennials don't have a work ethic and things like that, and I absolutely disagree. Right. I think that they are very hardworking. We're probably right on the border of being in that generation too. But the people that are, they're 12 years younger than us, that I'm working with regularly, they are ready right out of college. They want to solve, or the people that I work with are right out of college. They want to help fix the world or do whatever they want to do right away. They are active and they want to help. They don't want to sit around for 10 years and then just start thinking of things. So they are engaging now. So we need to get them while they're starting to engage.
Exactly, because think about it. The way universities are set up now, you get out and you assume that you're going to jump right into something, be very financially successful, and be able to have a huge impact on things. But a lot of times, because of our economy and the way it's situated, people are working later in life, and so it's harder to find spots for a lot of these young people. And the demographics don't lie. We see a lot of young people that are still living at home because of financial problems. And I do think that there are a lot of those people that want to contribute. And so that's one of the areas where the Democratic Party is doing better than the Republican Party, in my opinion. They're reaching to those people and saying, you have a crucial part of what happens in this party. And one of the ways they're doing it is by saying policies I disagree with, which is we'll give you free this, free that, but we need your help. They're saying that. Well, we're saying we need your help, but we're going at it from the opposite way, where we need your help, and personal responsibility and liberty, those are the positions that will help you the most. Because never forget, if you're younger and you're watching this, as appealing as it sounds to be free tuition, free college, free healthcare, what that's going to do is balloon the national debt. And the people that pay the debt are going to be the young. It's going to be our generation's children and grandchildren. So if you're 22 and you're for these policies now, 20 years from now, or policies like the Green New Deal that would totally revamp the energy industry, it will cost trillions upon trillions of dollars. Who's going to pay that eventually? It'll be the young. So we need to, if we're looking out for, I think we're looking out for everyone. We understand that we need to learn from our elders. We need to take their advice, but we also understand that we need input from the young as well. And I think we both are smart enough to know that we're not all that, omniscient or anything, and we need help from different people. But I think we're in a unique position. I don't hear other, we've heard other candidates say we need to reach the young, but how? What is specifically your plan? And I think we have a good plan that we give them a voice and we're sincere about it. We're not, here's some flyers to hang.
Yeah, we're active on social media now.
Right.
If you get elected, we will absolutely continue to be active on social media. have a Twitter account and all that.
Yep.
Facebook, we'll have a Facebook page, and the YouTube videos, you're planning on a weekly YouTube video
Yes.
every week where you're going to talk about what happened that week.
And take questions.
Which I assume you will even do that video even when Congress is out of session.
Yes, that would be the plan.
To probably discuss new policy positions or specifically questions that have come from your constituents.
Where I went in the district are exactly what...
Right.
Because my feeling is that, and this is kind of transitioning a little, but this is totally true. Even if you have a good congressman, how much do you really know about them? I would like to be known at, like, almost to the point where you'll be sick of me, like, what was Rob up to this week? Oh, they voted on this bill, and then he said that this is his itinerary for the next week. Within reason, obviously there's stuff you can't really discuss if it's, under legal restrictions or things like that. But I want people to know that they could contact me, ask me questions, and I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, I'll take questions from the people that like me. And like, I want the questions that are like, you voted for this, please explain why I hate this.
And if people still want to write letters to you, we will, of course, address the letters. Yes. Just like congressmen do today.
Right.
And you'll have a staff that will be available even to write good answers.
Right.
And we have good policy answers. It won't be like the form letter. Like sometimes I've written
You get the stereotype.
Certain people in the past, and I've gotten pretty stereotypical answers where it's like, I don't think you really read what I had to say because I probably had some pretty specific policy positions within my letter, and you just kind of were like, oh, he's talking about this one topic, so I'm just going to reform that way. I have got good answers back in the past, but for the most part, they're pretty formulaic.
Yes, I agree.
And I don't think we would do that.
And I think that also when it comes to reaching the young specifically, one of the things we were talking about this over lunch is, like, we need to articulate why the Republican Party is actually, like, the cool party now, for lack of it. It's the party of humor. Who's trying to end humor? It's the left. It's the Democrats. Like, everything. When I was growing up, there was this kind of, you went through the kind of the puritanical, we don't want bad words in music. We don't want bad video games and things like that. And now it's switched. Now it's, where do you see all the video game industry, for example, it's constantly pushed, like, by people on the ideological left that are like, that's not every Democrat. I'm not saying, if you're a Democrat and you're watching, I'm not saying the average individual. I'm just saying the people that are pushing this are coming from that side. And so I think we could articulate, even though the entertainment industry and like music and film and things like that are dominated right now by people that identify on the left, I think that we're going to start to see a shift where if you really want to be, I used to be into punk music. Johnny Rotten, for example, said, if you want to be a punk now, you have to be Republican. You have to be a Trump supporter. And that might be a gross overstatement, I get, but there's some truth to into what he's saying, in that it's easy to go along to get along and just say we have to be humorless, we have to pretend this country is horrible, we have to pretend we can't have fun. That's not who we are. We wouldn't do this if it made us miserable people. And the day that it makes either of us miserable, I assure you, it'll be like, that's it.
And it might be sick to some people, but I think we're having fun.
We are having a lot.
We're working really hard.
That's right.
And I mean, we're up late at night every night, and I'm barely sleeping, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
That's right. And I think that it'll show.
Yeah.
I think, for example, last night...
Hopefully it shows now.
I hope so. I think last night it showed, too, when I was up there in Potter. I love talking to people. I think that I don't get nervous about that. And I feel like, again, we're lucky because we've talked to people that are very impressive people. I mean, I remember debating people that literally could remember, like, the sentence on a particular page in, like, a foreign policy manual that some argument was on. Mm-hmm. And you were just like, how could, like, it's an amazing intellect and an amazing ability. But you also, we spent so much time talking to that group and then coming back and understanding the amazing intellect of someone, like, just listening to a farmer explain to you what they're doing. And you're just like, holy cow, like, this person has perfected hundreds of thousands of years of human knowledge, like, and that's an intelligence to me as well. And because we know all that, we know we can talk to people like ourselves. You don't have to get intimidated when you're talking to someone, just because of their position or something like that. So I think it'll show that we're having fun, that we are, we're serious about it, but Absolutely. It's fun. And I think that young people will identify with that. And we also understand this idea of a transmedia being important, where you need different types of media that young people connect to. That's why we have people working on things like music for us, logos, things like that. Because it's all about, like, yes, you are working. We want people to work with us, and it is important work. It's helping make the country better, in the way we want to see the country form. But you also, anything you work at, you have to love. You have to enjoy what you're doing. And if you don't, then the work's not going to come out well. And I think that we really show that. We're not... I don't feel we seem stuffy.
I don't think so.
And I feel like we could walk up to someone who 100% disagrees with us, with our positions. They could say, I'm a complete socialist, I'm a complete Ocasio-Cortez fan, and I bet they'd walk away saying, hey, disagree with those guys, I think they're wrong or stupid or something, but they seem decent, they seem like they were willing to listen to me. So I really think that idea will connect to the young.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. It seems, that whether it's legitimate or not, I do think that there's a stereotype of the Republican Party as this old stuffy party. Like people sitting around with, the old long cigarette holder with monocles. That seems to be, and I don't think that's who we should be. We need to transition into, it is a party for everyone. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about, the idea of how to reach then other demographics. So there's, Republicans do really we're going to be dying here. Let me see if I can fix this. But yeah, did you want to say anything more on...
the demographic stuff?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure where you were going. Okay. I think we're still good.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'm on.
Okay, yeah, with like the demographics, like for example, I think that to me, this idea that the left is coming up with, and again, not everyone, but when I talk about, and I do have friends on the left that ask me to be particular about this, so I am trying. I don't mean the average person that's a Democrat. I don't even mean all Democrats that are politicians. So I want to be clear in what I'm saying. I'm talking about the leadership of the Democratic Party. And so I'm talking about the people that are running for president or people like Pelosi or Schumer. And I think you have to put Cortez as not necessarily a policy leader, but she's definitely an ideological leader, I think, at this point. Because
for someone who's not running for president, she sure is getting all the president.
Well,
clearly she can't run for president because she's not
right.
But
she has, I believe, the second largest social media presence.
Well, she's tapped into the into
young people, new technology.
Better than everyone.
So think about that. Like someone, I think, and I don't mean this to insult her, but I do think that I have a vastly more. What's the word I'm looking for? I feel that I've looked into the issues more than her, and I understand the issues more than her. And a lot of people say, like, oh, she's just getting fed points from someone behind the scenes, and she's just a face.
But you aren't.
Right. I don't know if that's true or not. But even if that is true, you have to say, it is amazing the amount of following and the trend that she's gone. Yeah. Like, it really is amazing. It's not something to make fun of at all. It's something that, like...
I don't agree with her, but to be honest, I'm enjoying watching her career.
That's right.
It's
a story.
It's interesting. She's different from everyone else.
That's right.
And I think that's what we need. We need to engage people, and we need people with different opinions, even if we 100% think that she's wrong.
That's right.
I think we need people like her.
That's right. And I think that's where we would be kind of a Republican version of that. We'd be fun. We're young. We're not too stuffy. But I think that we're more than her. We're not going to go out and attack people like she does. We're not going to be yelling, chasing people through the halls of Congress or whatever.
But we went to the dance video.
Yeah, I considered redoing the dance video. But it is a model for how to connect to people. And like I think it would show that there is a thirst for newer, younger people. Like I don't even know that her ideas are new. In a sense they are, but in a sense they're Bernie ideas. Which is and I always said that was the irony. Like, look at the two politicians in the past 10 years, I feel, that had the most response for the youth, that were kind of outsiders. I think you had Bernie Sanders,
right.
And I think my favorite was Ron Paul. Like, Ron Paul had a lot of youth vote. And it's ironic, they're both older gentlemen, and it's like, what is the...
But they were saying something different.
That's exactly it. That was exactly it. And that's something, both of them are coming from opposite ends. One from my end, which is personal liberty, like Ron Paul, and then you had more of the socialist mindset of Bernie. But both of them were speaking to the young. Both of them were saying, this is why things are important for you. This is why it's important for you to get involved in the process. And we understand your importance. And I think that's something
we need your help.
That's right. And that's why, Bernie raised, $5 million in 24 hours? The average donation, $27. People keep writing them off. But why is that? Because there's a youthful excitement for him. And so I think that those types of situations show that if we elect someone like me as opposed to a more traditional candidate, I think there will be a lot more enthusiasm. And I think that I would take that very seriously and be able to show that the Republicans are transitioning to a big tent party. It's for the young. It's for people regardless of their demographic, regardless of skin color, gender, sexual preference, class. Like, regardless of all that, that's what the party's
become. And I think that would be good for the district, and I think that would be good for the election as a whole for this district. But I also think it would apply nationally. Like, there would be national news that, who is this guy? Where did he come from? And people, and then I would hope, set up a template for 2020 for a new youthful crop of Republicans to emerge, hopefully in 2020, and help win back the House.
That's right.
I know people are focusing on we need to get Trump reelected in 2020 within this election. They want to make sure that we have a steady person. But I think what you really need is new people, somebody who's different, and try to attract more individuals to the party so that you are better able to perform next year in districts which are more up in the air.
That's right. And I do support Trump. And I think that, right, like, Trump, here's one of the things with Trump. Trump has to understand that, like, I think sometimes he needs to do a better job of messaging where, I get it. I get where Trump's coming from. It would be nice, I think, for us all to just talk to people outside of demographics. Like, just, we are individuals. That's what I personally believe. That's what I'm running on, the idea of liberty. And I guess I'll just explain that real quick. The reason I think I could reach demographics like in the inner city or single women or Hispanics that traditionally have been difficult for Republicans to reach is because I feel that I respect people as individuals. That's what the Republican Party should be. It should be all about personal character, personal liberty. And I feel that we're now starting to see the Democrats, and again by this I mean the people at the top levels, starting to embrace this kind of identity politics where instead of looking at people as individuals, it's looking at people as the groups they belong to. So if you happen to be a black woman, you're not the individual black woman you are. You are black and you are a woman. Or if you're a white man, you are a white and you are a man. And then we designate that into categories of oppressors versus oppressed. And we see this constantly. I'll just give you a couple examples. You saw it with the Kavanaugh situation where this kind of craziness led to people that are running for president as Democrats, and like Feinstein, who's not running, but head of the Democrats, Booker, Kamala Harris, talking about how the concept of innocent until proven guilty should be reversed on its head. It was guilty until proven innocent. And we had to believe all women. Well, women are as qualified and capable as men. They don't need special treatment as far as I'm concerned. If there's actual violence that occurs toward a man or woman, we should take it seriously. But we have to default to the concepts of due process and innocent until proven guilty. That's what our country was founded on. Then we see with the Covington story where because these kids were wearing MAGA hats and were white kids, they must have been the aggressors towards the Native American gentleman. But it turned out that wasn't the case. It was actually a bunch of black adults from a racist, homophobic group that were yelling at them and things like that. And now we see it with the Jussie Smollett. Why was the media so willing to jump on that? Well, because a lot of these leaders in the Democratic Party and the media, which kind of, I think, parents them a lot, they're thirsty for that kind of story. They're thirsty for the idea of, oh, we need to paint people with a broad brush based on skin colors. The truth is we're all very complex individuals. You know, just because Jussie Smollett was black and gay, it turned out he wasn't a victim. Like, he was actually the person that was engaged in some pretty heinous racism and pretty heinous bigotry as far as I'm concerned. So we need to stop this idea. I know there's been a lot of oppression in the past. I won't deny that, and it is worth discussing to some point. But the only way we heal as a country, we keep opening old wounds. It's time to just, particularly at the political level, we're individuals, that's it. And I think that there are people that would be very encouraged to hear that. I think the Republican Party, it's time, we don't care. And what I was saying about Trump is he could do a better message branding. For example, he's let himself, I think, get painted into this, oh, you don't like immigrants because you're for the wall. But he's let himself then conflate the idea of illegal immigration versus legal immigration. I would be able, if I would run, and I think Trump did do a better job of this at the State of the Union, but to articulate, no, legal immigrants, I don't care what country they came from, I don't care their sexuality, I don't care what religion they are. If they are here legally, they're an American as much as I am. And if they're in my district, I represent them. In fact, as an American, I represent them anyways if I'm in Congress. And that's what the party needs to be. We're just judging you as an individual. All that other stuff, that's your home life, that's your business, right? But we're just judging them as individuals. Who's out there? Like, it seems, maybe this is difficult to say about the party I belong to, but it seems to me that the Republican strategy has often been with these groups. We hope they don't turn out to vote that much.
Right. Yeah.
Which is not the strategy. The strategy is we want them to vote because we think that we have the right message for them. And that's what I'm hoping to say. If we get someone like me that could articulate that, why individualism is good, regardless of all those demographics. I think we could really start to see. I think people are getting fed up with the identity politics.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody as who's running a campaign based on the fact that you want to hear everyone's opinion, I think you want everyone to vote, right? It's not like, and I know there has definitely been people that are like, oh, both parties have done this, where there's like, oh, we want to like not get this specific group to help to vote. We want to try to do whatever we can there, and I'm not saying that it's all bad, but well, it is bad. You shouldn't be keeping people from voting,
right?
But we would encourage everyone to vote for us, and I believe you've even said like you'd be willing to drive anyone to go vote without even asking. You would encourage them to vote for you and tell them who your positions on things if they asked, or just give them to them anyway because you're running.
And even in this process, like I've talked to conferees on the phone that'll say, I think X, and I'll say, then you don't want to vote for me, And I still, obviously, they will all vote, but I feel like that in a general election. Because the old trope is, get out the vote, everyone go vote, and then what you're said to say is like, okay, will you give me a ride? Sure. Who are you voting for? Oh, I'm voting Republican. Okay, I'm voting Democrat. Will you still give me a ride? And most people are like, oh no. I'd say sure. That's my. To me, this is the idea. Candidates' jobs are to do their research, be as articulate as they can, be as transparent as possible about what they would do if they're in office. Voters' job is to...
And we've done that.
But that's right, we have. A voter's job is, and in this case it's conferees for this special election, but even in any general election, your job, you don't have to be a scientist, you don't have to be a scholar, right? But you should pick some issues that are important to you and just educate yourself a little. Maybe it's only one issue for you. Maybe the issue is just, maybe you're a farmer and the issue is just, what do I think would be best for farming regulations? Okay, you don't really care about abortion or Second Amendment, whatever. It could be unique for each person. Just do a little to educate yourself. Don't don't vote because some celebrity told you to.
Right.
But educate yourself, and that's it. However the chips fall.
And I will also say, some people like me, I want to know your position on everything.
Right.
We've been posting all the videos, and you're going to continue to post videos with campaign positions. And if you get nominated, we'll probably post an awful lot of them.
Yes.
And I don't think I've seen that from most people that have run. I mean, maybe you get it if it's like a national campaign for like president. You see, because they are on TV every day for 8 months or something like that. You get a lot of positions out of them. But for local elections, usually you only see like 5 or 6 at most positions that they discuss.
Yes.
And maybe they only say the ones that they know aren't going to be controversial, and they have other opinions. I'm not saying that you have controversial opinions, but you're not going to lie about any of them.
No.
You're going to be straightforward, and we're probably going to give as many positions as we can get out there.
That's right.
And not limit it even to the ones that we think are...
And I hope it comes off to, some of the best calls I've had and some of the best talks I've had with conferees were ones that were like, I just disagree with you with this. And I'm like, that's great. Like, you're right. You vote based on how you want. That's fantastic. But I hope that at least what I showed to those people, and I genuinely admit this, is I'm not going to pander. Like, my point is, we walked into this and we knew we were fighting an uphill battle. And I'm sure you were the same way with this. I said, at the end of the most important thing to me isn't winning or losing. And there's other things that are important. Learning things, meeting new people, helping out the country in general. But honestly, and this is kind of selfish, the most important thing to me was I could sleep at night and I knew I maintained my integrity. I'm not going to lie. I think we're doing good. I think we're in a position to possibly win. I really do. If it came to me and someone said, all you have to do is tweak one of your positions and you're going to get the 5-6 votes you need and you'll be in, I'd say no. I'm not going to do that. That's just not who we are. We're trying to run a campaign like we would like to see other campaigns run. Not attacking people, not hanging up the phone. I've had people that were upset with some of my positions. I didn't hang up the phone. I let them talk. Like that's how the campaign.
And I believe some of those people you've even learned to like.
That's right.
In the end, you guys liked each other. I don't know that they're going to vote for you.
That's right.
But it seemed like they agreed with your position on civility.
Right.
And they agreed that you're a reasonable person.
That's right. And and I think that's one of the most important things we could have in a candidate. Yes, you shouldn't just vote for someone because they're civil. I'm not saying that. But I also think we have a lot more. We have knowledge. I think we have the ideals that's really being looked at for District 12 to represent them, such as, our slogan, or the ideals are civility, liberty, and personal responsibility. And that's constitutional principles, fiscal conservatism. That is who we are. That's how we'll vote. But having said that, I do think that the idea of having the package of civility means something there. And talking specifically, like you were saying, about policy issues, you know, one of the things you see at the national policy level, particularly in presidential elections, you'll see this, is people try to ride this fine line. They try not to really say something hard one way or the other because they're afraid that it'll isolate something. You're always trying to run the middle road, right? And I feel that, you know, I stand out in this election in that I think that I'm intentionally not trying to do that. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible and detailed, right? It's one thing to say, I'm Second Amendment. So this is something we've talked about a lot. I guess this is worth talking about. It is important to vote. Like, there will be one vote. But you have to understand, this election will carry until 2020. The Democrats control the House right now. The one vote will be very important. Don't get us wrong. It will be. But what's also important is being able to convince more people to come into your side, because the Democrats are going to vote as a block almost always. They're very good at that. They're better than the Republicans at that. And so we need someone that not just says, well, I'm Second Amendment, and to heck with anyone that doesn't agree. We need someone like me that could say, I'm Second Amendment, and I could talk to people that are in the center, that are partially leaning towards advocating the Second Amendment, or even that are slightly against, like slightly more to the Democrat side. I can articulate that position in a more successful way to be able to get the votes necessary to ensure that things that just going in and blustering, well, you know, I'm pro-life, I'm Second Amendment.
Which is what I hear from a lot of people in local elections. It's just like, well, there's nuance.
That's right.
And we don't ever get the nuance.
That's right. And you can't blame the candidates all the time, because, like, the teleconference, you get a minute and a half.
Well, I understand recently.
But like,
I mean, in regular elections.
That's right. And so, like, but what I'm saying is, like, when you really get down, you want someone, that's why the civility is important. And it's, again, I talked about this to some people last night, but I did a video on civility before I was running for this election, and one of the things I talked about is there's kind of, the way I look at it, there's like 5 groups of people. There's people that will almost always agree with you. And this is for everyone, by the way. So it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Socialist, Capitalist, Republican. You'll have the people that are basically always going to agree with you. Then you'll have the people that will always disagree with you. And I'm not saying ignore those people, but it's tough to change their mind. Like, most of those people are pretty steadfast. But then the other 3 groups are people
A lot of people are really good at talking to the people that only agree with you.
That's right. And I think you see a lot of it. I hope that that's not what happens when people go out and vote, because it's easy to say what you know people want to hear, right? It's easy to say that. You know, it's easy to say, like term limits, for example. I'm for term limits. I know that, and you could say, oh, sure, he says that, but I'm for term limits, and I'm not going to take a pension, because I don't think that this isn't a way of life for me. It's a service. It's not a career. And I truly mean that. And I feel like I love rural Pennsylvania. And I know you can acknowledge this. Not the most comfortable city guy. I'm just not. And so I want to serve, but it's not going to be a career for me. I want to go in there, 6 years and do what I can and have someone come up behind me that also does great work to advocate for the people, And if I do it for a year and a half and the people decide you're not our voice anymore, we want to change our mind, that's absolutely reasonable. That's what it should be. The people should have who they want there, and it should be someone that's connected to them. Like, I truly feel that. But what I'm saying is, everybody knows people want to hear on 4 term limits. Okay, but it's easy to say that. Do you really mean it? And I assume the people that said that really meant it. But I'm just saying that's one example. So you could take that to anything else. If you're in a room full of people and you think they want to hear,
well, do we have term limits in the Pennsylvania House or anything like that?
I don't think so.
Has there been any sort of movement towards that?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't think so. And so, for example, federally, I know this. I know that Cruz, for example, federally puts forth a bill for term limits. What kind of success is that in? None. And he's put this forth before as well. And so when you ask about term limits and everyone's like, yeah, I'm for term limits. Even if we all of the candidates are for term limits that's running here, and I take them at their word that they are, how does that effectualize when we get there? Is that my phone ring?
I think so. It's not mine.
I'm calling. Uh-oh. How does that work effectually? You push the bill. You sign on to Ted Cruz's bill, or you push a bill, and he's a senator, so you push it in the House, a similar bill, and guess what? Most of the people that are in Washington don't want to sign away their job.
Right.
And so we have to be like, well, what reasonable alternatives? That's why I was, my answer when asked about term limits, of course I would sign legislation. I would push legislation.
But you're pledging that you won't exceed 4 terms total.
That's right.
Even if this one would be one of those terms.
That's right. And I will say I'm happy that other candidates did that as well.
That's correct.
And there were a few candidates that said that they wouldn't take a pension as well, which I think is very admirable. I really do. But when it comes to this idea of term limits, even I would term limit myself, and there were others that said that. But I think I would go a step further. I think that if Congress is unwilling to sign legislation to term limit themselves, then we need to seriously consider a convention of the states that would be able to pass some sort of amendment, right? Because that's how you change. You don't have abuse of executive authority. You don't have the courts create law. The Constitution is very clear. We pass an amendment to change the law federally, so we should have an amendment for term limits. I really believe that. I understand there are decent arguments on the other side. Well, if you have someone that's very effectual, shouldn't they be allowed to run? But to me, that is outweighed by the idea of, I think most people get into politics with good intentions, and once you get sucked into that bubble, and you're there as long as someone like Nancy Pelosi, all that means anything is winning that next election.
Right.
And so the term limit kind of dissolves that, and it'll make sure that we have new, fresh faces and new ideas. And I think that's how we get rid of like some of this gridlock and some of this tribalism. I think we would really start to see new people would be able to be more willing to work together, and I think we can get a return to more individualistic principles. So I haven't heard other people saying that kind of stuff, and I think it's indicative of a problem, which is it's easy to get a big head. Like, we could turn off the cameras here and talk pie in the sky dreams of we're going to change the world. But we know that's not true. We know we're one team. We'd be one vote, right? We're one congressman. So what can you do? And there's a lot of great things you could do. This is what the responsibility in our ideals means. We could act like we want to see other people's act. We could treat every American that voted for us with civility, or that didn't vote or voted against us. It doesn't matter. We treat them all with civility. We understand that they all have something to bring to the table, that they all have information that could help us. They have experiences that are worth being valued and that we should look at and try to help every American. And we also understand that we could articulate for why that's best for the party and the country as a whole. And so I think that's more of a chance to actually have real change. Yes, the votes matter. Yes, we will see that. But we have, it's easy to just say, oftentimes when you're asked your positions, and this is one of the things I learned, I'm really happy about, is, you tell your answer. But then when you think about it, it is like, that's a good answer. Most people give good answers. But what is the practicality of you being able to get enough people to vote that way for that particular thing? So I want to see this drastic return to constitutional principles. I think that the judiciary and the executive have massive increases of power that are unjustified. And here's another thing that I think stands me apart, and I'm trying to make clear. I support President Trump. You could watch all of my online history, all of my videos, you'll see that. But I am also not a cult of personality person. If Trump does something I disagree with, I'm going to say I disagree with it. And I think that there's a tendency for people to just be like, I'm on Trump's team. Well, what does that mean? I'm on Trump's team too. You know what I'm not a fan of? Spending trillions of dollars into debt. And I'm going to call Trump out on that. Does that mean I think he's a terrible person or that I won't work with him? Absolutely not. I still think he's the best president I've had in my lifetime. But who are we if we don't have individual responsibility to say, I'm going to act as I want to see others act? So, for example, we'll talk about limiting I think all the candidates seem to really want to limit federal authority. But what does that mean? Does that mean then that you're going to be willing to say, hey, Trump, if you overstep your bounds, we also think, or when the court, if they rule for a conservative issue, but it's not constitutional in your opinion, are you like, well, it's okay because it was, no, not to me. To me, it is, I think both of us agree that it's, you can't be wishy-washy. You can't, give up your principles because it helps you in a certain way. So I hope that that's coming up. I think that's a difference for us. I really do. And I'm running my mouth the whole time.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm willing to let you talk.
But
that's the deal.
That is the deal. But yeah, so that's where we're coming from. So what we have coming up, just real quickly, a rundown of what we've been doing recently. I will be sending out postcards to everyone that we have coming up. I do have kind of campaign cards to give out. If I see any of you, I'll try to make sure everyone gets one. We went to an in-person conferee meeting last night in Potter County that was fantastic. The people that put it on were wonderful. All the conferees were great. I got to talk to a lot of the candidates. And I do truly believe that there are things that set me apart. I do think that I'm the best candidate now that I've got to meet the majority of them. But having said that, I thought there were a lot of really good candidates, and I could see people going other directions than me. That's fun. I hope if you're one of the other candidates and you're watching, I honestly would want to help you. I'm not going to be, I don't think either of us. In fact, let me just say, and you could give your opinion on this, on the record, I feel that this process has been very fair. I feel that everyone from the state GOP level to the conferees, even the ones that said, I'm not going to vote for you, they're reading what we send. They're giving us feedback. Like, that's all you could ask. So
it seems like we're getting attention. So yeah, to me, it seems like it's been a fair process.
Yeah, we've had access to everything everyone else has had. So I think it's been a fair process. I really do. So if we lose, that's fine. And we are both really interested in helping out and doing what we can to help this the state and whoever is the eventual winner. So we did that last night, and then tomorrow we have this conferee meeting. It's going to, the format of it is going to kind of be each candidate goes into a room and it's 10 minutes. My idea, I wish they would do my ideal format, which would be put 10 of us up on stage. We have a debate. That would be, because even last night, like, don't get me wrong, I agree with what everyone's saying, but here's the truth, and you know, we've talked about this. There is not, if you're a person who actually cares and looks into issues and formulates your own opinions, you will never find another human being, probably in the history of the world, that totally agrees with you. Right. There's going to be disagreements on things, and so therefore you'll never find a political party that totally agrees with you. Right. It just won't happen. Unless your political party is just yourself, it's never going to happen.
Or you're just somebody who's willing to just not really think on your own.
That's right. If you're willing to just say, I'll vote the way the party wants, then that's fine. Yeah. That's free. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. But, so I'm listening to the candidates' positions, and I'll admit I agree with most of them, but there are little things.
Nuance.
There is nuance, and I'm like, oh, and I would love not to attend, and then that's the other thing, like, debate's become a dirty word. Like, no, debate is great. You don't have to be mean about it, but you'd be like, wait a minute, I disagree with this. What do you mean by this? Just things like that. I think that I would really shine in that type of position, because I think that one of the areas that we have is because of who we are, because of for both entertainment and competitive purposes, and then from them also just learning to love politics and being passionate by it, we talk about this stuff for fun pretty much 24/7 when we're around. Right. Or we're arguing about football or hockey or something. But, so we're
fantasy football players.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I did win my league this year, by the way.
Unfortunately.
But, like, we understand how to do it civilly. But second, because you've heard the best arguments against you, you're ready for arguments.
Right.
And so I love that. And that's what you're going to get in Washington. You want someone that's capable of that.
This is kind of an aside, but I once went on a job interview, and they were like, what would you do if you had to have an argument with one of your coworkers or something like that? I would be really pumped. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean? I was like, I enjoy arguing with my coworkers on things. I'm like, I want to be civil and everything like that. But discussion and debate, that's what makes America great, right? That's how you make America great again.
Right.
Is to converse with one another.
It's the reason it's the First Amendment. It really is. That they understand where the Founding Fathers are coming from. Like, I think that there's this... because of the way things worked out and we won the war and we became the greatest country in the world, that there's this idea that all the Founding Fathers were this cohesive group, that they agreed with all this. That wasn't the case at all. No. They understood. You had radically different ideas. And and by the way, if you look, I've read about this, like, so, the outfits they wore back then, and it's sweltering when they're doing, like, the convention. Mm-hmm. And, they didn't have air conditioning back there. I don't know if you knew that.
I wasn't aware.
So, it wasn't a comfortable environment.
Wasn't Ben Franklin there with his electricity?
No, not yet. He didn't have the kite and the key, But, and you understand also, they had jobs and families, right? And so they're there for weeks on end discussing this stuff. They're not agreeing with each other, but they realize, like, look, we have to get something done. And so... that disagreement led to the greatest political document in the creation of the world, the Constitution, and then the Bill of Rights that went with it. And they understood that First Amendment was free speech because they knew that hearing other ideas is the best thing. That's the irony when people talk about diversity.
That would almost be nice if we had some hard deadlines that we had to start agreeing to, although now we have them and they're called the budget and they
we'll just pass a partial, Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. But, we start to see, what was I saying there? Now I'm drawing a blank. But yeah, with the deadlines and things like that, it's definitely It's something that we need to have, First Amendment, we need to be able to argue and come to these conclusions. And it's sad that our Congress can't do its job and get its budget passed and things like that. But debate and talking in the First Amendment, that's the diversity. Oh, that's where I was getting at. Like, the irony is you hear diversity. And this, again, I'm talking about like the top people at the Democratic Party or people you see in like academia that happen to lean left-wing. And they talk about the importance of diversity. Diversity is important. But the irony is the diversity that's important is diversity of ideas. That's what's important. And the way you get to diversity of ideas could be many different lanes. One of the easiest lanes to look at is, well, did you have different life experience? So if one person's this race and one person's that race, there's a chance they'll be diverse. Their experience will be diverse. But what often ends up happening then, we see in academia, they take people that look different, but then force them to have the same ideas. And it's like, no. It's the idea portion of the diversity that's important. And, that's not to say that people that are different colors or different religions or genders might be very diverse in their ideas as well. But their color and gender, that's all secondary. That doesn't matter to me. It's the idea diversity that matters. That's who you are, the content of who you are, your character, your ideas, your thoughts, your actions. That diversity in those is what's important. Diversity in the other stuff to me is all superficial.
We even had a debate round about that at one point. You and I talked about the rural voice is not what's being heard.
That's right.
And that was, that was 14 or 15 years ago now. And so, we were talking about this a long time ago, kind of stuff.
And we mean it. We really do mean it. And it's ironic because there's no one, like, there are voices, every voice deserves to be heard. Even the voices that I think that are overrepresented now, they still deserve a voice, right? That's one of the things I think that you see a problem with being too, what's the word I'm looking for? Too universal or hyperbolic, where, like you'll hear people, all bankers are terrible. Like you see this kind of coming through from the Cortez camp where it's like, if you have over X number of dollars, you're immoral. That's absurd. That's not true. There's certainly, for example, you won't find a bigger advocate of we should have been jailing people in that banking crisis, the people that were knowingly committing fraud. And the fact that we didn't, mark my words, regardless if I win this seat or not, you can come back and watch this in 4 or 5 years and say, wow, that guy told us that this would happen again. It's not that I'm a genius or anything. It's just I know. Geez, if a bunch of people are becoming filthy rich off of doing something and none get punished, I bet they do it again. And so it doesn't take a great intellect. That's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to see it happen again. So I'm for punishing those. But that doesn't mean you say, oh, that must mean that everyone who's a banker is evil. That must mean that everyone that's a millionaire is evil. That's not what that means. We should treat people as individuals. We really should. But that's why, kind of having a diversity of ideas and action, that's important. What your job is or, the immutable characteristics, that's not as important. So I think that's something that we're trying to show. Here's another thing, too, that separates me. I don't know. I haven't heard the other candidates talk. I guess we should briefly talk. I think we have the best possible situation to win the general election. I really do. The gentleman that's running, his name's Mark Friedenberger. Yeah. Seems like a nice guy. I have nothing ill to say about him. First off,
he's from Ferguson Township, I believe. So he's
nearby. He could be listening in. No.
That's where we are, by the way.
Right. Yes. Outside State College here, real close to it. So, with him, we're going to focus on the positions. One of the things I'm saying with civility is I didn't do it in the nomination process, and I will not do it in the general election. I'm not going to be one that's like, let's go look through old yearbooks. Let's go see if we can find any dirt. I don't care. I want to hear his positions. I want to hear his thoughts. I want to hear who his character is now. Maybe he made some dumb decision 20 years ago. I don't care at all. At all. If it's criminal and that's different. Leave authorities do it. That's not what I'm going to be doing. And so that's how I would like to see campaigns run. And I think that one of his issues, the reason he claims in articles I read that he got involved in politics was he wanted more transparency. Well,
and the banker thing too.
Yes, that's right.
I believe.
Yeah, you're right. And so I'm all for that transparency.
Absolutely.
And if I win, the way we'll win the general election is because we will talk to him and all the voters as much as possible. I would love to have a series of debates with him on each and every issue. I really would. And it wouldn't be unethical. It wouldn't be something that I would be uncivil. It would be quite the contrary. Maybe he would have better ideas. I'm convinced he wouldn't. I'm convinced that we would do very well there because I know the people of District 12 and I know what it's like to be a rural Pennsylvanian. I know the positions they would advocate. So we're for as much transparency as possible.
Yes.
And I think that his strategy will be to try to say, if you get a candidate that's trying to duck him or avoid him, that, oh, see, the Republicans put forth someone that doesn't want to transparently go. I would go the exact opposite direction. I would want to talk to all of the people that want to be that want to vote for him.
And another thing along with transparency, we talked about the policy videos and stuff that you're doing. As someone who's frequently, I enjoy local politics or whatever. Like I'm always trying to look for any information on anybody when I'm trying to vote. Right? We would be receptive to, let's say there was some policy position that you haven't specifically addressed. If people want to know about it, we would. If somebody gave us a comment on a YouTube video or something on the Facebook page, we would be more than happy to have a video or at least respond to you.
That's right.
Regardless of if we would agree with your position on it.
And not even just the policy, but even just stylistically. If you have a criticism, if you think we did something that worked well, you could let us know. But if you think like, hey, you could do this better, like one of the things,
we talk too fast.
We do talk, and I'm trying to work on that. I really am. One of the things, I had a really great conferee tell me, I need to work on just presentation and things like that. So that's something that we're working on with the videos and stuff. We need to be as professional as possible. We understand that. So we're willing to take criticism. And I think that's something, I honestly think that might have been one of the best skills we had as debaters that led to our success. And just in life afterwards was we both were smart enough to know that there were people that had a lot to tell us. And we're willing to listen. So often people just get into this, a criticism is meant to be a negative towards me, so and that's not the right way to look at it. I truly want to hear from people. And, maybe you get into Washington and you do something that it turns out that's not what the people wanted, or maybe it's what the majority wanted, but still individuals are upset. I'm willing to listen to that individual. I think that too often people want to shirk away from people that, don't you want to stay in your bubble with people that just go, you're great, you're awesome, you're great. Like it would be easy to do that, but that's not what serving and representing is about, So that's not what we're trying to do. So yeah, just to finish up, we have this going on Saturday where we'll be going for the conferee meeting, and then we also have next Tuesday, I believe I'll be in Mifflin County for a dinner with my wife, where the conferees will be in attendance. Next Thursday is a Lincoln dinner in Center County, which I'll be at with my mother. And the next Saturday is the election. The conference for the nominee. In addition, we've individually emailed every conferee and alternate. I personally talked to probably 20 to 30 on the phone, and I've left messages with many more. I'm going to get back on the phones probably today and later in the week. Though, obviously, I do have work, and so... if you're a conferee and I didn't get to you on the phone, it's really not because I didn't want to get to you. Please call if you want to talk to me. My number's available to everyone. And, I won't get my number over YouTube. If that's what you're going to suggest.
No. The one thing I was going to say is we've both acknowledged that we all work full-time. Your wife and the two of us.
Right.
I expect that people might be a little bit concerned because we're saying we work full-time, and then we would have, if you got the nomination, that we would have a real election. We plan on running a full-time campaign.
Yeah, now, I've already called. I'm done with my job the day I win the nomination. It will be a full-time. Same with my wife. I don't know.
I'm not making that claim yet, but I will work on the campaign full-time. Right. Whether or not that's always during the day or not, I will be working full nights, and I will attend as many things as I can.
The amount of work we've done while working, I think, is impressive.
Yeah.
So once
it'll take a lot more, I'm sure.
Oh, it will be. But we'll have a bigger team. We'll have people in the Republican Party that will be helping us out. And I won't be working. My wife won't be working. You'll be working less. So we'll be able to, really...
I will take some time off work for sure.
Right. We'll be able to exponentially increase the amount of work we're doing, I think. And we are going to take it... Look, this is a district that went overwhelmingly Republican. We are taking it as serious as possible, just like we are taking this nomination process. We came into this nomination process saying, we know we're underdogs. And everything, I know this, I know you're the same way as me, it has to do with competitive nature, plus also the seriousness of why we ran. We had a serious discussion as to why we ran, because we thought we had something to offer. And so, it's not just us we'd be letting down if we didn't try as hard as possible, it's everyone else. So we are going to try to win as hard as possible, and that means taking nothing for granted, at all. We will be fighting for every vote. It's not just enough for us to... If we win the nomination, it won't be just enough to win the general election. We want to make sure that we win convincingly. and that we let people know, even if they don't vote for us, that we are representing them. That's our goal. So it's not just going to be some cakewalk like, oh, we know this is a Republican. It's the exact opposite of that. We're going to work as hard as possible to let every single person know. We want a better turnout. We want more people voting for us, and we want the people not voting for us to understand that we're still going to represent them, and we want to be able to win the general election, obviously. But that it's all those other things matter, which is why we're going to be working as hard as possible. And by the so yeah, that's what's going on. So the last thing I'll say is yeah, we sent out all those emails. That was the schedule. I'll be making phone calls. I'll also be sending postcards. And if you have anything to call or email me about all that information, my email address is here. It's rob.noerr@gmail.com. My contact information is also in all the emails I sent out. So I'd look forward to hearing you. And I might be calling you. So if I call you, particularly, I know this is really, I'm not the greatest with names anyways, but when you're talking about like hundreds of people, some of the people, I'm keeping a list of who I've called, obviously, and what we've talked about, but maybe I've met you at one of the meetings. If I forgot your name and you say, yeah, remember I met you last time, I honestly mean no insult by it. It's just, there's so many people, so many names and everything, it's difficult. So hopefully I get to talk to people, but phone's chirping. Oh. But all right, well, thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for doing this with me.
Thank you.
And I'll be putting out, we'll also be putting out a new itinerary for this week coming up, new strategies to win the general election, and I'm going to be putting out at least a video today and maybe some more videos coming up in the future. So, all right, thanks a lot, everyone, for listening.
Thank you.
We're still on, Tom, so don't say anything.